Hello, and welcome to module, 6? I think we're in module 6 already. And today we're doing inversions, both heating and cooling inversions. So we'll be warming up our bodies to prepare ourselves for getting our heads lower to the earth than our hearts. That's the purpose of an inversion. So before we get started, I just want to make sure you have some props that I think will be very, very helpful today. As many block-like props as you can get your hands on. Kleenex boxes I don't think are going to hack it, and I think you'll see why in a little bit. Bolsters may or may not come in handy, especially towards the end of class. A blanket will be really nice. And a strap is not so important today, potentially, but if it's something you always like to explore, it's always available to you. So please feel free to go grab that as well if you don't have that. And if you have everything that you need, I ask that you please now find yourself in a comfortable seated position. I'm seated on my shins today in seated warrior, but you can sit cross-legged or lotus, or perhaps sitting on a block, or legs straight with your back against the wall. I invite you to close your eyes here or gentle gaze towards the floor. And allow your breath to fall into a natural rhythm. Not trying to change anything about your breath, just allowing it to do what it naturally wants to do in this moment. When you're ready, I invite you to take your attention to the quality of your breath today. Are you breathing quickly or slowly? Shallow or deep? Notice the temperature change as you inhale versus when you exhale. I want to invite you to set an intention for your class today, for your practice. Perhaps you'd like to set an intention about a goal you have, or maybe you'd like to dedicate your practice to a person, or create space to honor how you're feeling, whether that might be positive or negative. Perhaps you might be feeling happy or anxious, and your intention is to dedicate this practice to that feeling and intentionally create space. Solidify our intentions together with 3 deep breaths. observation of feeling to hold us anchors to this moment. Knowing that if we aren't feeling anything in the stretch, it's still an observation. Space and stretch here. Just a gentle pull. Maybe your eyes are closed here, giving ourselves just one more private moment for ourselves. Let's pull our shoulders in the opposite direction, so pulling our shoulders behind us. We take a moment to observe any different sensations we feel going in the opposite direction. Maybe it feels the same. Taking an arm, reaching out towards the ceiling, bending it back towards our shoulder blades, with the opposite hand right into our shoulder, and gently giving yourself a little stretch here. And you're ready, switching sides. Noticing a difference in flexibility or sensation from one side to the other. Make sure your head feels good. And making your way to tabletop. Tucking your toes if that's comfort for you. I like to tuck my toes in tabletop. And go through a series now of cat-cow. Connecting movement with breath, inhaling, dropping your belly, sending your tailbone towards the ceiling and your gaze towards the ceiling as well. Open up your heart to the front of your mat. And then exhale, sending your spine towards the ceiling, curling, sending your gaze towards your belly button. Tailbone's pointing towards the earth. Inhaling cow. Exhale, cat. Follow me if you'd like on the screen or moving at your own pace. Again, maybe keeping your eyes closed here, holding on to that moment of privacy. Maybe moving faster today or a little slower. I invite you to add some creative movement here if you like. Maybe with an exhale going off to one side, drawing your shoulder to your hip. Inhaling back to center and exhaling off to the other side. Making a scene. Perhaps drawing circles with our hips. Or engaging in bigger movements altogether, maybe taking the whole body and drawing circles. Maybe mixing it up entirely, doing one thing and then something completely different. When you're ready, coming back to tabletop. Preparing to thread the needle, so if you would like a little bit of cushion for your shoulder, you can take it and so it's not super thick. As an inhale, rising one arm up towards the ceiling, starting with my right side. And with an exhale, threading the needle, so taking that hand and sending it through the gap between your opposite wrist and knee. And if it's available to you, bringing your shoulder down to the earth. This might be a pretty intense stretch for some of us. So we can rest our hand on a block or a pillow. Then if we would like a different sensation or a deeper sensation, we can reach our hands towards the top of the mat. Nice gentle twist here. Ready, pushing yourself back up to tabletop. And doing the other side now. Inhaling the other arm up. With an exhale, threading the needle on this side. Arm goes through the gap, shoulder comes to the earth if possible. Forehead may, temples I guess, may rest on that as well. Arm may reach towards the top of your mat. Breathing into a stretch where we feel it, if we feel it. When you're ready, pushing yourself back up to tabletop. If you've got a blanket, remove it. Taking your hands and sending them, foot or so, maybe a foot in front of you. Fingers splayed, weight distributed as evenly as possible. Maybe even focusing just a little bit though, especially if we're feeling achiness in our shoulders. When we go into downward dog, the L of our hands, so the index and the finger and the thumb. Maybe putting just a little bit more weight there. Tuck your toes and then send your tailbone towards the ceiling, sits bones towards the back of the room, rolling shoulders down our sides. And this is the first dog of the day, so maybe a nice deep bend in our knees, maybe a nice shorter stance. You can play around with a wider stance, or maybe a more narrow stance, noting that this can change. Maybe we're going to take our dog for a walk. Shake our head yes, shake our head no. Sending our heart towards the mat if that's accessible to us, if available to us. And then wherever we are, finding stillness in this moment. Bending your knees deeply, send your gaze to the top of the mat. Little baby steps towards your hands, meeting in a forward fold with an exhale. Inhale, slowly stacking our vertebrae as we reach up towards the sky. Then exhale, hands at heart center. Go through a few rounds of our half sun salutations. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Maybe a nice deep bend in our knees, maybe using a block or block-like prop to support us. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, stacking our vertebrae, reaching up. Exhale, hands at heart center. Do one more of these. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale again, stacking our vertebrae as we reach up. And exhale, hands at heart center, some distance. Taking a moment here, maybe having a nice gentle gaze towards the floor, eyes closed perhaps. Drawing our navel towards our spine, engaging our muscles, rooting down through our feet. Stillness. Through a few sun salutations now, Surya Namaskara A. Remember that you always have the freedom to choose your variation, even if I am not cueing us through. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step back to your plank pose. Inhale at the top. Exhale, lowering down with control, nice and slowly, keeping your elbows close to your body. Inhale, baby cobra, tops of the feet pushing into the earth, using our back to lift us up. And exhale, pushing back through plank into downward facing dog. Finding movement if you like, or stillness. Intense puppy pose is an option here, as well as child's pose. Wherever you are, making your way to the top of the mat with an exhale, forward fold. Inhale, stacking your vertebrae as you reach up towards the ceiling. And exhale, hands at heart center. Inhale, up up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, forward. Exhale, plant your hands, step back your plank pose. Inhaling at the top, lowering down slowly and with control. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, pushing back through plank, downward facing dog. Finding stillness or movement. Wherever you are, bending your knees or making your way towards the top of your mat. To a forward fold and exhale. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, hands at heart center. Inhale, up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step into your plank pose. Inhale at the top. Exhale, lowering down. And baby cobra or up. Exhale, pushing back, down facing down. Bending your knees, bringing your knees down to the earth, back into tabletop, knees going wide, pushing back into child's pose. Rolling out your wrists if you need to. Staying here and rest if this is what your body's asking of you. And then push it back down through tabletop, coming into your plank. Modified plank or full plank. I have no measurable upper body strength, so I'm going to go into modified plank for this. We'll be doing some yogi push-ups to really wake up our core and get us ready to keep us stable in our inversions. So draw your navel towards your spine, really engaging here. With an inhale, and then exhale, lowering down, just like a normal plank, keeping our elbows really nice and close to you, maybe like an inch or two off the ground. Pushing yourself back up. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, rising up. Feeling free to break whenever you want. Moving at your own pace, maybe pausing in tabletop. Inhaling, and then exhaling as you lower down, Inhaling, rising up. If you want, a block is a really nice prop for this. You can inhale and then lower down to the block. And then exhale, push yourself back up. Let's do a few more of these, guys. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, push it up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale. You're rising up. So I can't even really think what I'm doing. Okay, great. And then when you're ready, pushing back, downward facing dog. We're not going to hang out here for too long. Take your toes together. Inhale your left leg up to the sky. Three-legged dog. And with an exhale, stepping through, planting your foot in between your hands. Make your way there as best you can. Maybe you come down a tabletop. Maybe you take your steps really nice and wide. Maybe you draw your knee towards your chest like I did and step forward. Doesn't matter how you get there, just get there. Rotate that back foot, getting ready for warrior two. Draw your navel towards your spine, really using your core to lift yourself up. Taking a moment. We're going to do our checks for our strong foundation. Knees bent at no more than a 90-degree angle. You just see my big toe. Back leg is engaged. Foot is parallel with the back of my mat. Drawing energy up from the earth. The arms nice and wide. Having a look at our hands, making sure they're nice and even. Standing in our power, our warrior strength. With an exhale, then an inhale, peaceful warrior. Our foundation stays the same. Our front arm reaches towards the ceiling. Back arm finds a thigh, a hip, maybe a shin. Gaze can be up towards your hand. Exhale, coming back to warrior two. With an exhale, extended side angle, that front arm rests on your front thigh, swooping your back arm down and then up, reaching towards the front of your mat. Really engaging our core here. We're not dumping, we're not supporting ourselves with our thigh and our arm. It's almost like a little bit of a kickstand, but our real support is here in our core. One more breath here, and then inhaling back up to warrior two. And I'd like to introduce some language to you here that you'll hear a lot of times in a Vinyasa flow in a studio. And it is, go through your Vinyasa and meet in downward facing dog, or something to that effect. And basically, when a yoga teacher says that in a class, it's like choosing your own journey for the second half of the sun salutation. So when I cartwheel my hands down, I'll step back into a plank or a modified plank, lower down into a cobra or up dog, and then push back into downward facing dog. You can also go into child's pose or tabletop cat-cow. So it's like a yogi choose your own adventure. So when we're ready, let's go through our Vinyasa. You can follow me or go through your own Vinyasa. When you're ready, exhale your hands down to the earth, step back in whichever way suits best to your plank pose. Inhale at the top, exhale lower down, baby cobra or up dog, and exhale pushing back, meeting in downward facing dog. Nice work. Okay. Take those feet together. Inhale your right leg up to the sky this time, three-legged dog. And at your exhale, in your own way, bring that foot in between your hands. And then inhaling, focusing on foundation for warrior two. Front knee, 90 degrees or more open. Adjusting on toe. Strong engaged back leg, parallel with the mat. Now arms straight out, energetically drawing up from the earth. Gaze over my front fingertips. Breathing. Drawing that navel to spine, maybe tucking your tailbone if you're pushing it to the back of your mat or behind you. Inhale, and then exhale, keeping your strong foundation, peaceful warrior. Front arm reaches to the ceiling, back arm finds your back leg or hip. Tuck that tailbone. Coming back to warrior two. And then exhaling into extended side angle. Inhaling back up to warrior two. And then we'll cartwheel our arms down. Go through your Vinyasa. Feel free to follow me. This will be the first time I won't give us any cues, but again, you need to look up at the screen, you can follow me. When you're ready, cartwheeling your hands down to the earth, making your way back to plank, and flow through your Vinyasa, and we'll meet in downward facing dog. How'd that go for you? I bet it was great. Bend your knees and your gaze to the top of the mat. Make little baby steps. That's the front of your mat. And exhale here. And reaching. And exhaling. Hands up. Hands up. So we'll pause already, and we'll walk through our inversions. Because I want to give you plenty of time to play around with inversions. They are very similar to arm balances in that they can be kind of scary. And they are asking us always to take our hearts and actually put our hearts above our heads. And so symbolically, you can think about inversions as seeing the world literally from a different point of view. And we can apply that symbolism to our lives in dealing with others and other people's experiences. So I'm going to introduce to you 4 inversions. One is a heating inversion. It really heats up the body. And the others are cooling inversions that you typically see towards the end of a class. These are not the only inversions. They are, well, if I can be honest, they're my favorites. That's what I'm going to teach you. With our supported headstand, I'm only going to teach it to you using props and using support of those props. I'm not going to introduce it to you without those. And the reason for that is because we only get one neck, and it's a very important part of our bodies. And so I think it's very important for us to protect that neck. That being said, headstands, supported headstands can be done safely. It's just for our purposes in this work together, and whenever we practice online together, because I'm not with you in person to coach you through this, this is how I'm going to provide you with this information. So this is where our blocks are going to come in handy. And this is, you'll see in a second, Kleenex boxes are probably not going to be strong enough to support you here. Also, what will be really important for you to do is to have yourself close to a wall. And that's so if and when you fall over, you won't fall flat onto the floor, which happens sometimes, and that's part of sometimes what can make inversions a little scary. So to get started, you can do a few different positions with your hands. You can do sort of like a tripod, so your hands are about shoulder width apart and your head comes down here, so you, okay, that needs to go away. So, you know, you can support your head here. Or you can take your fingers and you can lace them behind your head like this. When you do this, the natural tendency is for your shoulders to go out. You actually want to draw them in if you choose this variation. Whichever variation with your hands that you choose, we will be using blocks on their highest setting or a prop like blocked on its quite high so that it supports your shoulders. So I'm going to do the tripod. That's my favorite. I just really like it. And it'll look something like this to support yourself with those blocks. So I'm going to have my hands. My hands are resting behind the blocks, so you won't be able to see them. But I'll take my hand and I'll put it in between the gaps of my blocks so that my shoulders rest and are supported here nicely. So you can see, perhaps you can't, but my head is resting gently on the earth, but it's never actually going to, my neck is always going to stay elongated because of the support of these blocks. And I can press my hands here right behind them, or right next to them to give me that stability of the tripod. So that's what that looks like from this angle. So let me set myself up here. Once I am feeling secure, I'm going to push myself up like this. And this is bus stop 1. This is what I would call supported dolphin pose. This really helps you strengthen your shoulders if eventually someday your goal is to do a supported headstand without props. And then slowly, you just walk your feet towards you until your feet become light. And they just kind of pop up off the floor. And maybe you start rising up one leg, maybe 2, maybe you use the wall to support you here. All the while drawing your navel towards your spine, really engaging. You can have both feet on the wall, really focusing on the elongation of your spine. Or you can try and get both feet up in the air. And then gently you come down. So, at this moment, hit the pause button. Give yourself some yogi playtime. Get close to a wall, get your props, have a play. If you're like, this is cute, Alyssa, but no thanks. An alternative is Dolphin Pups, where you can cusp your hands like you're going to cradle the back of your head. And then you just come up like this. It's like almost like a more intense downward facing dog. Really focusing on elongating and creating space between your shoulders and ears and your neck. That is an alternative. So, hit the pause button, have a play, and when you're ready, hit the play button and we can carry on. All right, so at this stage, you will have perhaps given yourself some space to play. And when you're ready, come down into child's pose. So if you really want to have your knees wide, that's fine. But for this purpose of trying to stretch out our backs, or exploring that sensation, just keep our knees together if that's available to you. And then coming on down to the earth. But again, if this is not available to you, perhaps there's flesh in the way, perhaps you have muscle tightness, having legs wide is just fine, it's not a big deal. And putting a blanket here gives you a little bit more space if your sits bones don't quite come down to your heels. Just allowing to come into this moment of rest. Maybe doing a quick scan of the body. What do you feel and where? How did it feel if you got your feet up in the air? How did it feel to be working towards a specific goal? If this rest feels good, please stay here. But if you're ready, we'll come out of child's pose. And prepare to come onto our backs, introducing supported shoulder stand. And this is a cooling inversion. I'd like to introduce two versions of this. One is a restorative style supported shoulder stand that is always an option to you. And if you're, when it comes to the practice and a yoga teacher is prompting you into a supported shoulder stand and you want something more restorative, more rest type pose, this is a great option. So have your block coming onto your back and then placing your block just below your lower back, almost more onto like your tailbone. And then just lifting one leg after the other towards the sky. Maybe resting your hands off to the side. And just resting there. This is supported shoulder stand with a prop if you're looking for something more restorative. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more potentially invigorating, and what a more traditional supported shoulder stand might look like. And you're welcome to play around with this as I explain, or you're welcome to just watch before going in and practicing this pose. But you start by really using your core and your shoulder, your elbows to kick your lower body up towards the sky. And you're shooting more for a straight line. You might be working towards that, so you might be leaning forward a little bit, and that's okay. You just don't want to be doing this number. You probably need to be working on your core a little bit more before you're ready for a fully supported shoulder stand. So one thing that we want to be mindful of is that we're not actually pinching our throats, but actually we're creating space in our throats. So that's something to think about as you go into this pose. The counter pose then is plow. And this is really lovely where the wall can come in and is really helpful. Where you just take your toes actually and press them up against the wall. This might be a great bus stop one for plow because this can ask quite a bit of our lower backs and our hamstrings if our bodies aren't ready for it. So hands are resting on the lower back. And then if you want though, plow is actually where both toes come to the earth. Now again, you may notice that I'm not talking like this, I'm not totally pinched down. It's because I actually have space with my throat. And that's usually a pretty good benchmark of whether you're ready to put your toes onto the earth or not. Otherwise, you're getting the exact same benefits out of it. And in some cases, getting maybe a little bit more. And you can also play around with getting a little bit closer to the wall. Like that was maybe a little too far for me. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit more comfortable. Great use of the wall as a prop in plow pose. So you can hold this if you're ready, if you feel good, or you can come out of this pose if you want. And then draw out your knees towards your chest. Maybe drawing circles with our knees. And keeping one knee towards our chest, sending the other leg out long. And sending our knee over our stretched out leg into a nice gentle twist. And if it feels good, please stay here. Otherwise, coming back to center, drawing your knees back to your chest, sending your other leg long this time, then twisting off to the other side. And if you like, inhale back to center, our knees back together. And happy baby is something that feels like it might be beneficial in this moment. Our last cooling inversion of the session today. The legs up the wall. I'd like to offer this as an alternative to Shavasana. So if Shavasana is what your body is asking of you, please stay in Shavasana. Then take this moment now to take whatever preparations you'd like to go into Shavasana, adding socks on, maybe putting on a sweater. If you'd like to explore legs up the wall, try the wall. Push your hips up nice and close. And then, keeping your sits bones as close to the wall as you can, rotating onto your back. And sometimes a blanket can be really nice here towards the middle of your back. Actually, I take that back. Send it towards your tailbone. With your legs up the wall, splaying out to the side. Maybe your hands rest on your torso, maybe they go off to the side. Maybe to have eyes closed here or a gentle gaze. Just allowing your breath to slow here. Taking a moment to reflect on your work with supported headstand today. Maybe coming back to the intention you set at the beginning of our time together. Yourself to focus on your breath here and now. Your body sinks into our last pose together. your breath to become longer and deeper. Maybe some gentle movements in the body. Time coming out of Shavasana or legs up the wall. Coming to a seated position. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, exploring inversions, both heated and cooling. The light in me deeply honors and respects the light in you. Namaste. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.